Well, hello there, you beautiful, beautiful, amazing, wonderful people. It is the midweek hump, I think. Yeah, it is. It's a midweek hump. We all love a midweek hump. And you're looking absolutely amazing, I must add. Yes, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday. This week is going fairly quick. And we in the UK are having an extended period of sunshine as well, which is lovely. Absolutely lovely. Spiffing. Anyway, let's get straight into the meat and potatoes. As there has been a new doc drop, 2 doc drops, and they are basically continuing in a trend that we thought had come to an end. But it seems that it's becoming very apparent that docs generally are sealed and gagged when the courts are wanting to hide something from the public. But I think that in certain situations around the Idaho 4 case, that's a little bit like closing the stable door after the horse has well and truly up sticks and fucked right off. And what are we talking about? First, though, I do have to bring this to people's attention. Some people may not be interested in this, some people will. But we have our own little situation happening over in the UK with this guy here. And I thought you might be interested to see. This guy here is Peter Sullivan. He was convicted many, many years ago of the murder of a young lady. And he's just had his conviction quashed. 38 years later. 38 years later. He's now 68 years of age. And he's been in prison since he was 30 after being wrongfully convicted of murder. So Heron told that DNA evidence found at the scene of Diane Sindle's murder was not that of the 68-year-old. So, yes, we have our own situation. Someone just been exonerated, and this is he's not the only one. He's not the only one. This just happens to be the latest and probably the most well-known, because he had been trying to get this overturned, as he had been saying that he was guilty since the fucking jump. But look, they now feel that they're putting things right now. I think we've got some of our credibility back, said the very sort of outlet that was involved in finally getting it right. They think it will go somewhere to repairing their reputation. I say no. Again, like earlier, closing the stable door after the horse was well and truly up sticks and fucked off. But anyway, let's get back to the point. I just thought you might find that interesting. If you want to learn more about that, do let me know down below in the comments, and I'll happily go over the full story of Peter Sullivan. But for now, we're looking at this, and I have some thoughts about it. So, motion to seal parties' joint proposed jury instruction regarding the tip leading to investigation of defendant. Now, just to simplify, and this just basically goes on, comes now the state of Idaho by and through the Latah County prosecuting attorney, and hereby moves the court pursuant to Idaho court administrative rules and them numbers for an order sealing the parties' joint proposed joint. So that means prosecution and defense come together, made up a story. And we'll keep that under seal. Regarding tip leading to investigation based upon the fact that all jury instructions have been filed under seal. Now, I'm going to tell you exactly why this has been sealed shortly. And then there is the final, based upon the parties' joint proposed jury instruction regarding tip leading to investigation. The court does hereby confirm and order that it is exempt from disclosure and sealed pursuant to Court Idaho Administrative Rule 32G, otherwise known as hiding the dodgy shit that we do from the public, so it can't be dissected for the reasons stated in said motion. So be it. There we go. So that's that. So, in a nutshell, what are we talking about? What is this even about? Well, long has it been a question, how exactly did they find Bryan Kohberger? I don't even know how that can be a thing. How can it be a thing that you're still sitting around 2 years down the track and you're like, I don't actually know. It's not very clear the exact path of Bryan Kohberger, how they actually found him. We can all speculate, we can assume, we can take some of the things that's out there and think, well, that's what happened. That's what happened. But in reality, nobody could flat out say we 100% know exactly what happened, what led to him finding Bryan Kohberger and getting hold of him. Do you know what I mean? And some may argue that Bryan Kohberger's case has been completely controlled from the jump by the FBI. And for those of you who perhaps feel that that's a possibility, may further conclude that that's a possibility because he was already being looked at as he was under suspicion for another murder. Now, some of you that'll go completely over their heads and they'll be like, oh, I don't even know what he's talking about. What is he talking about? But Bryan Kohberger was indeed being, how can I say, looked at. There was some suspicion around an alternative murder as well. And it did get ruled out that he was nothing to do with it. And if you're at this stage in it and you don't know who I'm talking about, I am purposefully not even going to say that person's name because you clearly haven't been paying enough attention. But there was even a grand jury about it. Bryan Kohberger's parents were involved in it. But he wasn't involved in it. But some may suggest that, look, the law enforcement, FBI, perhaps felt that Bryan Kohberger was a man and they were worried about him going to go and do something else. So they needed to start putting wheels in motion, to start working the case and making sure that they took this dangerous monster off the streets. Who knows? It's possible. It's absolutely possible. But look, what is this all about? So what's happened is we don't know how they got to Bryan Kohberger. Like I say, we're not 100% sure. And it seems to be that the FBI did numerous things that were a little bit dodgy. Shouldn't really have done. And if you're somebody who truly believes in your constitutional rights as a US citizen, then you should really be thinking, hold on a second. I'm not sure that I'm very comfortable with this. Now, there will be some that say, well, the ends justify the means. I believe Bryan Kohberger's guilty, so I don't give a fuck how they get it. How they do it. I don't care. The fact is, they've done their job. They've done what needed to be done. They've done what needed to be done. I'll ask you a question. I want you to absolutely let me know down below what you think, right? And I'm not saying that that's what's happening in this whatsoever. I just want a genuine answer from you guys. Just say you have somebody, right? And this person is guilty of a crime. They're guilty of killing, we'll just say for argument's sake, 4, I don't know, college students. They're 4 college students, and this person has killed them. Law enforcement, all these agencies, they know who it is because somebody, well, I say know who it is, because somebody tells them, say, I know who did this crime. I know who did it. Now, it might be that FBI turned around and said, look, we know who did it. We know who did it. Look, this is who you need to look at. Again, I'm not saying this is what happened. This is just, a fictitious story. So you've got, so they did it, but you've got no way of proving it. There's just no evidence because they didn't leave anything because they knew what they were doing. This wasn't their first rodeo. They had knowledge, prior knowledge. They had literally, I don't know, let's say for argument's sake, they had background knowledge of criminology, the way criminals operate, crime scenes and all this sort of stuff. So they'd dotted all their I's and crossed all their T's. Do you think that would be okay in this instance if the police helped the investigation along by doing things that were unconstitutionally sound? I don't know, like, let's just say, I don't know, obtaining information from public databases that they don't have access to, or going as far as to plant DNA evidence. I don't know, making it seem like a sheath that was left at the scene that they couldn't find anything on, they might add something to it. I don't know. And I can't show you how we got all these details because, to be honest, we shouldn't really have done what we did. So we'll scrap all that. But just check this name out, Bryan Kohberger. And they slide this bit of paper with Bryan Kohberger's name on it. And that's would you be cool with that? Would you be cool with that? Or do you think that it's best for everybody in the country, and perhaps it could be argued that everybody in the world, everyone in the world, that there is a legal system that is right, that is proper, and functions in a way that we can all know that if someone is accused of a crime and eventually convicted of a crime, we don't end up with, I don't know, a Peter Sullivan situation where they lose 38 years of their life later to be found that law enforcement were actually wrong, and they'd coerced a confession out of him. It was a massively circumstantial case. They pushed out how much of a monster he was. He'd been drinking earlier in the day and he was hacked off, mad, angry. Painted pictures of this monstrous beast. Turns out he weren't. But the public did their job. The public did their job. But with respect to Bryan Kohberger, is Bryan Kohberger innocent? Is he guilty? Who knows? At this stage, who fucking knows? I don't think that we've seen enough evidence to convict him beyond a reasonable doubt, but the needle has been moved. There is, however, one specific element in this case that continues, absolutely continues to elude us all, and that is genuine, solid evidence that places Bryan Kohberger at the scene of the crime via court documentation. And in fact, court documentation would seemingly suggest that Bryan Kohberger wasn't at the crime scene. We have a PCA that has been deemed irrelevant, and we will touch on that soon. But with respect to this, the prosecution, defense come together and they have to form a story to say how they came to find Bryan Kohberger. Because just by simply telling the truth, which in hindsight we already know really how they did, because we know that they accessed certain things online that they perhaps didn't have access to, shouldn't have been doing, and made it look like that's how they did it. And to be fair, it's quite, I suppose, convenient for them that they can say that that's how they did it, so they can try and hide all of the what would normally have to be shown, and that is a chain of custody. Hence why it's all been fucking scrapped. The only thing that I have issue with is Ann Taylor going along with it. The fact that Ann Taylor is going along with it, I do not understand for the life of me. She is a defense attorney. She's supposed to be doing absolutely everything in her power to, I don't know, protect the constitutional rights of Bryan Kohberger and now ultimately get him off the crime if he's innocent of the crime. In fact, even if he's guilty of the crime, it's her job to get him off. That's her fucking job, like it or not. But she's going along with it. She has. But why have they sealed it? Again, why have they sealed it? I'll tell you why they've sealed it. Because we just saw what happened with the Dateline debacle. That comes on, and the public, they disseminate over it. It gets pulled apart, gets pulled into shreds, and then you have these little stories come off all over the place. They pull each individual, like we've got the inebriated cock channel showing hoodie guy 3, Bryan Kohberger, with a photo that's clearly been edited. They admitted to the fact that it had been edited. It's taken completely out of context and shows Bryan Kohberger in a hoodie. Fuck me, he's got a hoodie. He must be a murderer. Gotta be a murderer. And then you go through what they're saying, and he idolised Ted Bundy. I'm sure he did. I'm sure he had Ted Bundy's face tattooed on his ballsack. How these people can actually walk around saying that Bryan Kohberger idolised Ted Bundy, and there's a new article that's come out now. They're now pushing the incel theory as well. I'll touch on that tomorrow or later on today. Who knows? But yeah, I'm uncomfortable with Ann Taylor agreeing to this story. It's not a difficult thing, is it? Show us how you got to Bryan Kohberger. Be straight and open and honest about it. Justice is transparency, and this fucking case is anything but transparent. And they are hiding this, they are sealing it, because they know if it gets put out there prior to the trial and the public get hold of it, there will be people who are able to pull holes in it, because it's clearly not true. We know it's not true. We know it's going to be a version of events that hide the truth. And again, third time, I am not comfortable with Ann Taylor being okay with this. Let me know how you feel about it down below. Now later on, I'm doing another video because I think I now fully understand and appreciate why Cy Ray was brought into this case. And in fact, did Bryan Kohberger himself nod to the fact that, that Cy Ray could have been brought in all along. Love you all. Mwah.